Hello, hello! Welcome to my third and final video over-explaining my trip to Japan. This week is loaded to the brim with things to talk about, so there's no time for a recap. Links to parts 1 and 2 are in the description below if you haven't seen them yet. And this week will showcase my adventures across Kyoto, Yokohama, and even more of Tokyo. So enough of the intro, let's hop straight into it. Today I left Kyushu behind and rode all the way up to Kyoto. I stayed in a really nifty hostel that was modified from a traditional Japanese townhouse, which are known as machiya. I'm going to be repeating this phrase a ton, but staying here felt proper due to the overwhelming amount of cultural history Kyoto holds. The city was the country's capital from 794 until 1868, with the name Kyoto literally meaning capital city. So a mere summary of over a millennia's worth of history cannot do justice to how much importance Kyoto holds. If you saw Oppenheimer this summer, you may already loosely know this factoid. Kyoto was spared from being bombed in World War II because the US Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, knew the city had significant cultural importance after vacationing there. However, it is unknown if this was done out of fondness for Kyoto or for other strategic reasons. Excellent dramatic moment though. And just like any other metropolis, I went to the top of its tower. Kyoto Tower had crazy views of the city. Buildings, mountains, and parks all felt endless. It's a blessing Kyoto wasn't lost to time. But then, the nerd in me got the upper hand. I'd like to say I didn't begin buying all sorts of Pokemon merch during this last leg of the trip, but Pikachu cup, camping dishes, and a Hisuian Zora plush. This one especially felt proper in Kyoto given the significance of Zora's cultural inspirations. This includes the folklore of foxes or kitsune, which were sneaky creatures with the ability to shapeshift, and the ever-popular kitsune mask that is worn commonly at festivals to pay tribute to the god Inari. Then add on traditional kabuki or no theater makeup, and the concept of vengeful ghosts, and boom! This adorable little Pokemon. The rest of the Pokemon Center had statues dedicated to Pokemon hailing from the Johto region, which is the fictional land based on the Kansai area of Japan, and where Kyoto is located in real life. If you grew up a fan of the Gold and Silver Pokemon titles much like I did, you know exactly why all of these statues are just so charming. Kyoto is absolutely massive, so today I focused on covering ground on the east side of the city. I started off in the Higashiyama district at Yasaka Jinja Shrine and soaked up all the little details of this huge Shinto shrine. Then right behind it was Maruyama Park. I loved being up here early in the morning because of how soothing the sounds of stillness were. By pure curiosity, I stumbled into Kodaiji Temple, a Zen Buddhist temple established by the nun Kodai-in, the widow of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a memoriam to him. It was here that I truly began to appreciate the architectural differences between Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples like Kodaiji. The fact that both coexist in harmony throughout Japan brings a sense of tranquility that is difficult to describe but yields comfort. The roads in Higashiyama have been preserved, and when paired with the machiya, it helps portray a vivid picture of Kyoto in days gone by. Yasaka Pagoda overlooking this district encapsulates this idea flawlessly. This may sound bizarre, but I want to note the Starbucks here. Kyoto has super strict signage laws in certain districts, negating colorful signs and popping exteriors you'll find elsewhere. So instead of the usual flashy green logo, this shop blends in with the machiya aesthetic and utilizes this wooden sign. I would have gone in, of course, but I don't drink coffee. After ascending several staircases, I arrived at Kiyomizu-dera, one of the most famous temple grounds in Kyoto. Established by Buddhist priests from Nara in the late 700s, The buildings here were reconstructed in 1633 without using any nails in the traditional joinery technique. At this point, you're probably thinking, now geez, how many temples and shrines are there in Kyoto? And well, there are about 1,600 temples and 400 shrines in all of Kyoto Prefecture. No wonder so many tourists flock to this section of Kyoto. And at this time of day, they were out in full fashion. I know I was contributing to the problem, but there is rampant over-tourism in Japan. And if you do ever visit, please be respectful of customs and cultures. It's the least you can do because places like Kiyomizu-dera Temple are gobsmackingly gorgeous. The halls burst out from the tree line, and even on a cloudy day, there are no bad views whatsoever. There was an expression popularized during the Edo period that translates to jump off the stage at Kiyomizu-dera. It was believed that if one could leap off the 13-meter-high stage and survive, their wish would be granted. Supposedly, about 230 people took the plunge with around an 85% success rate. So it was banned for a reason. Taking the time to walk around just felt proper, relaxing, comforting, other alike synonyms. Kiyomizu means pure water, likely getting its name from the waterfalls nearby, including Otowa no Taki, where you can drink from the water. Afterward, I got some matcha sakura flavored ice cream and journeyed towards Heian Shrine. But first, I had to pass through its giant torii gate. You could spot this gate from far away, and photos don't give its massive scale justice at all. It's around 24 meters high, or about 78 feet tall, one of Japan's largest torii gates. The shrine itself was picturesque, surprisingly only being built in 1895. Once I was done being fascinated by this postbox, I walked along the Philosopher's Path. This canal-side pathway got its name from the belief that Kyoto University professor Kitaro Nishida would walk the full length of the route daily for exercise and meditation. Hey, if this was in my backyard, I'd probably do the same thing. Soon enough, I was at Ginkakuji Temple. Originally meant to be a retirement villa for art-loving shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa, it was converted into a Zen temple upon his death in 1490, including the well-known silver pavilion, mimicking the look of a certain golden one. And what an incredibly blissful place this is. Looping around the grounds was like traversing through perfectly cultivated environments, each one more photogenic than the last. My personal highlights were the moss-covered areas and the silver bird perched atop the pavilion. And after all this walking, simply getting some curry before relaxing that night felt proper. Up on the northern side of town, I was at Kinkakuji Temple, which was one of my favorite spots of the entire trip. A once villa transformed into a Zen temple in 1408 in memory of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshiakira. The golden pavilion glimmers across the pond, miraculously the only structure not burned to ashes on the grounds during the Onin War in the 1470s. Unfortunately, in 1950, a fledgling monk burned the structure down, but the pavilion was reconstructed in 1955, with it receiving a well-kept gold leaf-covered exterior, meaning to help mitigate negative and destructive thoughts. And when gazing at the shiny edifice, you never want to look away. I would blame my nerdy love of Pokemon Heart Gold on this one, but no, this place was just that spectacular. I ended up purchasing a souvenir Emma with the temple printed on it. People usually write their prayers or their wishes on an Emma and hang them up at a shrine, but I was glad to take this one home with me. I then took the train over to Arashiyama on the outskirts of Kyoto, a tourist hotspot since the Heian period. I marveled at the views from the Togetsukyo Bridge for a good long while before climbing up the mountain to see monkeys. Arashiyama Monkey Park is home to loads of Japanese macaques, or snow monkeys, the only kind of monkey native to Japan. They were a playful lot, but you need to make sure to keep your distance and avoid direct eye contact. You don't want to anger them. But man, what a great view they have. Following that, I found bamboo. This bamboo grove stretched on for a good long while, and staring all the way at their tops brings a wonderful sense of escapism. Despite being packed with people, the bamboo stalks reduced the noise tenfold. It felt proper to just let the grove guide me along. You gotta love nature doing its thing. Near my hostel was the Kyoto Railway Museum. And how could I not go after singing praises about Japan's incredible trains? It just felt proper. It felt wonderful to see trains from the steam era up to early Shinkansen models. I really loved this recreation of what an old-fashioned station would have looked like. Once outside, there were tons of trains parked in the roundhouse. And I managed to capture this crazy shot of a Shinkansen and a C-Class steam locomotive in motion at the same time. It's not every day you get to see such different models and eras of trains right next to each other. Then I trekked southward and walked across Toji Temple, one of the first 3 Buddhist temples allowed to be built in Japan during the Heian period, and the only one of them to stand today. The 5-story pagoda here is the largest wooden one in all of Japan. But the halls of Kondo and Kodo are the true standouts here. Of course, I didn't take any video or photos inside the hall because they're sacred, but here's a scan of what it looks like on the brochure. Wandering along the Kyoto back streets, I went to see Nintendo's headquarters. Obviously, you can't go inside the offices of the video game studio, but just seeing the spot where many of my favorite games were made was a full circle moment. This place has put out so many childhood favorites and modern masterpieces that have brought joy to millions around the globe. It felt so surreal to see. Nearby, though, was my favorite hike and shrine all rolled into one. Fushimi Inari Shrine is known the world over for having thousands of torii gates that line the path up the mountain. Founded in 711 and dedicated to the god Inari, the god of rice and agriculture, each gate is donated by a Japanese company, nowadays having a complete total of over 10,000 torii gates. Passing under a torii gate marks leaving the everyday world for the sacred, with the vermilion red color keeping away unjust evil forces. And it was magnificent to traverse under so much vermilion. Most people only stay around the bottom of the shrine, but you'd be missing out if you didn't climb all the way up to the top. Up there were offshoots from the main shrine. The top of the mountain trail itself. And every additional gate brought a new sight to see. Incredibly gripping, to say the least. I was really bummed to leave Kyoto behind, but I was really glad to be returning to Tokyo. This time, I stayed in the Ginza area, known for its skyscrapers. And the only significant thing I did this day was spend more money than I should have. This Pokemon Center was the biggest one I went to, and right as you walk in, there were all these giant murals of all the starter Pokemon to greet you. And if that wasn't enough to bring out the inner child in me, the walls of the entryway were lined with silhouettes of all the Pokemon that existed when the store opened in 2018. This Snorlax statue was signed by veteran lead concept artist Ken Sugimori. But then I had to wait because they had timed ticket entry, and literally everything in that department store kept reminding me about Pokemon. But soon enough, I was in. I ended up getting a Turtwig, a Cyndaquil, a special My Pikachu plush. These were a cute promo line with custom gestures on each Pikachu. And this reusable bag that I love way too much. Plushies on this side, and all the starters shopping together being buddies on this one. Oh my god, it's so cute! You know, maybe I do have a problem now that I think about it. Not too terribly far from Tokyo sits Yokohama, a portside city that sits aside Tokyo Bay. And the first thing I did was see another Pokemon Center. I didn't buy anything this time, I swear. I did accidentally stumble into Nissan though. That was nifty. But the sight of the bay here was absolutely stunning. Especially with the Yokohama Bay Bridge in the distance. After getting a glimpse of Cosmo World Amusement Park, I got aboard the Nippon Maru, a former sailed training ship turned into a docked exhibit. I liked imagining how cadets would have lived on the vessel, from its small bunks to fancy quarters. It was simply fun to explore. Right next door is the Yokohama Port Museum, which houses the history of the Yokohama area. This includes Yokohama being the first port opened up to international trade in 1859 post-isolationism, after American warships showed up on its doorstep, and the modern industrial technology behind the numerous shipyards here. I then kept strolling along Minato Mirai, the city's seaside center. I liked being able to see how this once industrial area was transformed into a bustling modern shopping district. The starkest example of this modern coat of paint were the red brick warehouses. These buildings were once customs buildings, occupied by Americans for a decade after World War II, and once Japan gained them back, modern containerization made them obsolete. Nowadays, the complex is home to numerous shopping and eating halls, making for a great lunch stop. I got a kick out of seeing this cruise ship docked at the passenger terminal. Being used to air travel makes you forget international travel was once commonly done by sea. And after getting a good look at the ship, you realize the sheer size of the thing. just astonishing. It felt proper to walk alongside it given Pokemon's connections to Yokohama. There's a reason the 2023 Pokemon World Championships were hosted here, with their own cruise ship to boot. Nearby was another gigantic ship, the Hikawa Maru. This ocean liner is now a preserved museum, but in its prime, it carried passengers between Yokohama and Seattle, crossing the Pacific Ocean 254 times between 1930 and 1960. I was really fascinated by the Hikawa Maru for numerous reasons. The sense of mechanical power it had over the Nippon Maru was clear from the start, since it wasn't a sailing ship. And it was wild to know I was aboard a ship that saw Japanese military use, although with the caveat it was used as a Navy hospital ship. Its layout was restored to a 1930s look, and navigating inside it felt like a self-guided maze with so much to see. I can't explain why, but I really enjoyed the engine room on the lower floor. Touching the roof, being right under the pipes, I was giddy about the whole thing. I had way too much fun. Oh, and I spotted the giant Gundam statue from the ship too. The Cup Noodle Museum was a bit of a letdown. It's geared more towards being a family-friendly experience, but it was still neat to see all the different flavors and history behind the brand on display, as well as chow down in the International Noodle Room. Wrapping it up, I ended the day at Cosmo World. While I could have gone on all sorts of rides and roller coasters, I really wanted to get a view of the bay while the sun was setting. And the Cosmo Clock Ferris wheel was scratching that itch perfectly. I had the best views of the city. Skyscrapers, the bay, you name it. After that, the only logical move was to take the Yokohama air cabin back to the train station, seeing the city lights turn on as night fell. Unfortunately, today was the last full day of the trip, but I did all that I could that I hadn't yet in Tokyo. I began my morning at Asakusa, home to the Kaminari Gate and Sensoji Temple. Passing through the Kaminari Gate and its recognizable lantern led to a bunch of stalls where I bought a bag of these little sweets called pento. I only knew of their existence as the inspiration for Starbits in Super Mario Galaxy, but I had to get a bag regardless. Sensoji Temple was a marvelous sight, being Tokyo's oldest temple, dating back to 645, although lots of the structures had to be rebuilt following bombings in World War II. I love the livelihood of it all, the smell of the incense burning, and the clusters of people praying in the hall. I also bought this little bell, meant to give off good luck. Leaving the old for the new, I arrived in Akihabara, nicknamed Electric Town. This area had tons of tech stores and popular culture shops, but most appealing to me were the retro video game stores. Spots like Super Potato had loads of old merch and games that were kept in incredibly good condition. It makes me hate the Western secondhand video game market, where everything is overpriced and kept in crude condition. My prized highlight find was this Japanese copy of Pokemon Platinum, which only cost me around 25 USD. How much does complete packaging go for an American copy on the US market? You got to be kidding me. I then wanted to go up Tokyo's Skytree, the largest viewing point in the entire city, but the sky was super cloudy that day, making the expensive ticket up there not worth it in the slightest. So I stayed in the shopping areas below, and are you kidding me? That is so cool! This is the last Pokemon Center, I promise. Themed after the Hoenn region games, the This was the perfect send-off to these stores, especially with these incredibly cool Rayquaza statues. Pokemon has affected my life in so many meaningful ways, and I wouldn't be here today without it. So the last Pokemon I picked up was this Victini. Since the little guy symbolizes peace and victory, he's become a bit of a good luck charm for me. It only felt proper. But this wasn't the final nerdy outing for me. Oh no, that would be the Kirby Cafe. You know Kirby, right? The super tough pink puffball who eats everything and copies abilities from the beloved video game series? If not, that's a shame, because this cafe was Kirby themed to the brim. Sitting around this wispy wood statue, I could spot so many little figurines and flourishes that made this experience incredible. Especially the background music track remixes playing over the speakers. I literally knew every single song that played. The menu was outstanding too, as well as the decor. So much Kirby. It's so good. Oh, and then for my meal, I had the Green Greens drink, the Kirby burger, and this car Kirby cake. It wasn't the highest quality food, but what an excellent experience it is if you love this little guy like I do. And I got this commemorative coaster, plate, and this big Chef Kirby. A stellar way to end the day. My last day was spent running around getting souvenirs I hadn't picked up yet, and getting quality cheap meals that I couldn't find back home before my flight. And I had to buy a duffel bag to bring everything back in. So, here are some of my highlights. This single strapped bag. I saw so many people across Tokyo wearing similar bags, and man, it is so convenient. I now go almost everywhere with it. This Kitsune mask. Getting a simple festival mask felt proper, especially with how iconic the Kitsune mask has become in popular culture. Oh, and then all my Pokemon stuff. Is there such a thing as too much? I need to be told if so. Probably the wackiest thing would be this automaton. This is a synthesizer instrument that's shaped like an eighth note and a tadpole at the same time, and well, I don't know how to play it. But I love it dearly. So, thank you very much for watching, especially if you've seen all 3 of these videos. They were a blast to make and sit down and edit, and I'm going to try to make more videos on whatever random topics captivate my brain. So hopefully there'll be more stuff coming out soon, eventually. But until next time, see ya.